Hello, it's Stu here from DIYmusic.co.uk with another fantastic FL Studio tutorial. And this time I'm going to be looking at something people ask about a lot, which is mastering in FL Studio. So I'm going to try and show you a sort of basic introduction to doing some simple mastering using pretty much Maximus and some EQ. So first of all, I really want to cover some disclaimers here, because mastering is quite a controversial area. You could say it's a lot of people have a lot of opinions on mastering. So my opinions, which come in the form of disclaimers, are that first of all, high quality commercial mastering is done by high quality commercial mastering engineers. These guys have years of experience and thousands of pounds, dollars worth of equipment, outboard stuff. So you and I, if you're like me and you're sat in a room with a laptop and a copy of FL Studio and a few plugins, we're not going to achieve quite the quality of the stuff that you're hearing on the radio or on your favorite album. If you want that, you can send stuff off to mastering engineers and pay to get it done very well. But if you just want something to put on SoundCloud or send out as a demo, or you just simply don't have any money, we can do a certain amount of mastering with what we've got, which is what we'll look at here. So that was the first one. High quality commercial mastering is done by high quality commercial mastering engineers. The second one is that no amount of mastering is going to fix a bad mix. You can improve something, but a lot of your problems, if you have problems and that's why you're looking to mastering, that may not be the solution. You might almost certainly want to be looking at your mix and checking that you've got all your EQ done well, your levels are done well, your compression is good. I mean, your recordings are good quality. Just so much goes into a good mix before you even think about mastering. It's not a solution to a bad mix. So bear that in mind. The third one is that there is different kinds of mastering for different kinds of music. And if you're mastering a classical recording or something like maybe an acoustic track, that's going to be different to a heavy metal track or a death metal track, which is going to be different again to like a dubstep track or some EDM. They all need different kinds of approaches to the mastering that you do for those, simply because of the genre and the sound that people expect to hear and the other what's out there in that genre commercially already. If you're trying to fit in somewhere, you need to be listening to that and finding out what kind of mastering they're doing. So my kind of mastering is I'm trying to get a good comparable volume and dynamic range to similar stuff that's out there, but I'm not looking to change the tone or the sound very much from the mix. So that's a different type of mastering. I'm really just trying to get the best volume and the best adaptability to other systems, car stereos, club systems, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of mastering I'm talking about. The last thing is that I'm going to show you how to do this using some stock FL Studio plugins. The mastering that I actually do myself, I use other software, third-party stuff, Stephen Slate, Slate Digital or Waves generally. But I don't use any outboard equipment, which maybe one day I will. But for now, I'm just a software guy. But yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. What I'm going to show you now isn't necessarily what I would do, but it's a step along learning and along being able to get good masters from your already good mixes. So I shall stop blathering on with the disclaimers and crack on with what we need to show you. So I have a track in here that I have already mixed, and I've bounced it to a WAV file, high quality WAV. The actual original has a volume of a maximum of around, I think, -6 dB, something like that. So I brought it in, you can see the level's quite low, and I'm normalizing it. And what normalizing does is increase the volume so that the loudest peaks hit 0 dB. You can see the difference that makes. But it's still not, you know, in the most of it is not that loud. The peaks are, there's like one peak there. And that's what's stopping it getting any louder when you normalize it. So let's get rid of those bits. Let's go to my mixer and show you what I'm going to do. I'll play you the original, actually. Let's have a listen so you can see what we're playing with. Here we go. So there you go, it's already mixed, but it's quite low volume and there's some sort of big peaks and stuff in there. So what we're going to do is use Maximus to reduce those peaks and allow us to increase the volume of the whole thing without clipping. And we're going to do it in, well, Maximus is a multiband compressor, so we're not just going to compress it. We're going to compress the 3 separate frequency ranges separate from each other. So this is one I set up earlier. So I'm actually going to get rid of that. Oh no, I'll load it up. I'll just reset it. So I'm going to use the default to start with, so I can show you how the whole thing gets set up. Okay. Here's Maximus. Here you can look at your 3 EQ splits, low, mid, high, and then the master. And the default setting is to have what is basically a limiter here. So anything, this is your compression curve. No, it's not much of a curve. Everything from here is unchanged, so 1-to-1 ratio. As soon as you hit 0 dB, it's not letting anything go above that volume. So your actual volume is, your input volume is across here, across the bottom. 0 is there. If you hit 1, the output volume, which is the y-axis, is just 0. So anything above here is just going to be cut to 0. That's sort of what we want, but we don't want it to be quite so extreme. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make these compression curves a bit more curvy. And to do that, I'm going to get this point and drag it down 3 dB. And then make the curve a bit smoother so we've got a more gentle knee type compression. There you go. Nothing is going to get above 0 dB in the output still, but the input is going to be more gently affected by the compressor. I'll do the same for the mid. And the high. And on the master, just for now, I'm going to essentially turn it off by making the whole thing a 1-to-1 ratio. So the master is not actually going to do any compression at all. We'll go back to that later. So the next thing you want to do is work out where to split your low, mid, and high. Before I do that, I'm going to turn this cue off. Come to that later. And that. Right. You click here, you can see the bands. What you want to do is, a good sort of rule of thumb for where you split them is your kick and bass should live in this area below. Your snare up to the hi-hat should live in the mid, and the high should be your hi-hat and everything above that. So you can click solo here, which allows you to listen to just what's going through each of the 3 bands. And then you can use these sliders here to move the boundaries. And it's best to just do that whilst you're listening and work out where each bit changes from kick and bass to snare and from everything else to hi-hats. So I'll just do that now. Have a listen, see if you can hear what I'm doing. Obviously, it helps if you turn on the track that you're listening to. Okay, that'll just about do for this one. So you can see each of the EQ sections is already getting a little bit of compression here. You can see on the monitor, this white line shows you what compression is actually happening. So if I play it, you can see there's already a little bit happening because I've changed this ratio. Yeah. Very gentle. Okay, so the input volume is quite low at the moment, so there's not really a lot of compression happening because it's not even getting to the 0 dB boundary where it starts getting limited. Before I start doing any more there, interesting thing is that that is actually going to make a little change because you're already sort of balancing out the lows, mids, and the highs by compressing them separately. So it's very subtle, but that's already having a sort of positive effect on your mix, hopefully, on your master. One thing, I'm going to put this EQ in. I've already done this. It's got a very small cut around 400. See if you can hear the difference. I mean, it is minimal. But I did that because around that kind of area, there's normally a kind of a sort of boxy resonance that you don't necessarily want. You don't miss it, and actually by removing it, every cut you make to the EQ is giving you a little more room to increase the volume, which is what we're doing here with mastering. So I could have done more. In this case, I'm just taking that one out. I'm not going to go overboard. I don't want this tutorial to last forever, so that is something else to bear in mind. Subtle EQ. Most of your EQ, as I mentioned, should have been done in the mixing stage. So hopefully you've already got a good mix at this point, but you may want to notch out just a little bit here and there. The other thing you may find yourself doing if you're, especially if, as you should be, you're looking and listening to reference tracks at the same time, maybe you want to add a little brightness just with a shelf. If you find like your reference track is just like a little bit more sparkly. But anyway, that's EQ. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at Maximus today. So we have set our bands, the areas that they take up, and excuse me, and we've got some sort of basic leveling, basic limiting going on there. What we're now able to do is start pushing those up so that they are, well, we're increasing the volume without going over the threshold, which is what we want to do. Again, that's mastering. One thing I am going to do at this stage is just increase my release, because I do like the sort of more sort of smoother, transparent compression, I'm just going to increase all of those a little bit. Again, it's a subtle difference, but that's what I'm after. So here we have the pre, here we have the post. The pre is the volume going in to the compressor, and the post is the volume coming out, or the change to the volume coming out. So what we're going to do is sort of push up the pre so that we're boosting what's going in. And as that increases volume, we're going to pull down the post a bit just to get it back around where it was, but hopefully now more level, more squashed because of the compression. So I'm just going to do a bit of that, stick my headphones on. So it's a subtle difference, but it is a difference. Even though I'm keeping the volume roughly the same, I've now decreased the dynamic range so that the quieter parts are louder. The louder parts have been sort of cut down. And that is a basic example of doing a bit of the multi-band EQ, multi-band compression. It's been a long day, bear with me. So that's a small example. We can then put a bit of overall limiting on here. Now, you could use a limiter, but essentially this master compressor is, it's a limiter. So it's the same thing. And you can stack limiters. You can use one and then another one for more and more transparent kind of limiting. But just for now, I'm going to turn this one on, but the ceiling is right up there. So it's not actually doing anything, but you can see the volume. You see it's exactly the same. So, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any reason why you would need to use a fruity limiter if you're using Maximus. So I'll get rid of that. And I'm going to make the same curve here, but maybe a little bit more gentle. So maybe 1.5 dB drop there. Make that curve there. So now I'm limiting everything. So my lows, mids, and highs all added together on the master can go no louder than 0 dB. And as you can see, there's not a lot of change happening because we haven't started pushing it yet. This is where our loudness is going to really start coming in, because we can start pushing the input into this limiter. And, well, I'll do that now and you'll see. So there you go, we've increased the volume and you can see it is cutting it down and stopping it getting above 0. I can tell that much of that it seems to be coming from the mids, which are maybe still peaking and still pushing the the overall compressor down a bit. So I may make that a little more aggressive. Okay, so that is essentially using Maximus to do some mastering. Another cool thing is you've got the stereo separation here. So a good master would have the you can apply that to each band. So that one's lower, isn't it? Oh yeah, I just did that. So your low, which should really be in the middle in this kind of music, is drag it all the way across. Why not? And to have a bit of width, why not increase the separation on the highs? So just a tad. Or you could do it over the whole mix. Again, you should really be working out what sounds good. You should be comparing to reference tracks, and you should be trying this out on different systems, testing in mono, all that kind of stuff. I'm just showing you how to do it. This is probably not the best mastering session I've ever had because I'm not using my usual plugins, and I'm sort of winging it a little bit just to show you how it's done. But let's have a look at how that now compares to the original. So I'll use Edison to actually record it. Okay, if I drag that down into my playlist. Yeah, so you can see straight away, we've got a much fatter waveform than we started with. If I normalize it as well, just because the other one's normalized. So it's the same audio. Hopefully it doesn't sound too different, because that's not the idea. It should just be louder. And you can see the difference to the waveform there. That's not very heavily limited. We could take it a bit further. Let's see if I can do that. I'm not really a big fan of like really squashing a mix, but we can try the curve here. You could use, maybe give that a little bit of a boost on each of these. Gentle, I don't want to do too much. Just to get louder a bit quicker. And then let's push this another 2 dB. Why not? See what that sounds like. Okay. To me, that's starting to sound a bit squashed, but let's record it and just see what it looks like. Okay, that'll do. Yeah, not a huge difference. I mean, you can keep pushing it as much as you're comfortable with, and be careful because overly compressed stuff can sound pretty crap. Okay, so that's the basics of using Maximus to master. It's not professional mastering. It's not for every type of music. It's not going to fix a bad mix, and it's not the only way you can do it. Personally, I really like the Slate Digital FGX at the moment. It's very nice, transparent compressor and limiter in one kind of unit that I'm just getting used to using. And also the Waves L series, the L1, 2, and 3, they're really good. Sort of pushing the volume up. You can do stuff like mid-side processing to really sort of control the width and the bass, getting that really central, and do other funky stuff like that. And of course, EQ is always important. You could have gone in and notched out a few more bits in there that you don't need to give you. It's all about giving yourself headroom to start pushing the volume up. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Sure, everyone's got opinions on mastering and what I've just shown. I've given my disclaimers. So, but please do feel free to comment below the YouTube video, on the webpage, on DIYmusic.co.uk, as my Facebook page, which I think is DIY Music Blog after facebook.com, and the same for Twitter at DIY Music Blog. Yeah, I'm really keen to discuss this whole area. Let me know how you do your mastering, if you think what I've done here is good or rubbish, or if I should take this video down and stop misleading people, or if it's actually helpful. Let me know. Get in touch, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.